Good evening and welcome to our Monday evening show of Fresh Natural Live. As usual, we have a great show tonight. We're going to continue the conversation on supplements. We've gone through a number of different aspects of supplements, and what we want to do in this series of talks is give you insight as to how best to use supplements. And over the years, I've never been a big advocate of supplements, largely because they're overused by people, they're inappropriately used, and people go to the drugstore and they'll pick up, just things off the shelf. But they do have value, and they can play an important role in your lifestyle and your health. However, you have to use them effectively. You have to know what you're doing. Supplements can have the whole potential of side effects or more commonly no effects. So we really want to give you some insight to this. So we have my colleagues and friends, friend Dr. Atkins, Dr. Floyd Atkins will be talking about, supplements for survival, some of the critical ones that you need. You don't need, all 1,000 ingredients. So I want you to get out your pen and paper and sit back and enjoy. You're going to learn a lot tonight. I always do, and I always take notes. So let's look forward to a great show tonight. Let's get started. Hello. So we're back. I've got my star panel here. Dr. Floyd Atkins will be presenting tonight. Dr. Pamela Brewer Atkins, who's here with us tonight, and also Dr. Celeste Palmer. Hello, everybody. How's your Monday going?
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
evening. And so, we're continuing our conversation on supplements, and as I started out, we want to cover, important aspects of supplements. And, supplements can be beneficial, but, a lot of people get no effects, but also people get, side effects, calcium supplementation, certainly done in the wrong fashion and, can predispose women to hypertension, heart attacks, and other types of supplements if they're not done in the right manner. And supplements, like any other type of substances, if you will, or chemicals, need to be done the right way and under the proper supervision. So what we're hoping to do tonight is empower you with that information. And so none other than, a resident expert, Dr. Floyd Atkins. So Floyd, you want to take it away? So, supplements for survival, the key ones, what's good, what should we have in our pantry or our medicine cabinet or wherever we may keep our supplements.
Yes, well, thank you so much. So glad to participate again tonight. I think, we had a great show last week when we really talked about, we dealt with vitamin C. I know some people may have missed it, but if you get a chance, you need to go back and take a look at that particular show, because like we referred to before, the whole concept or the topic of supplements is an extensive one. There's a lot to be considered, and really understanding why and how supplements work is key, and the benefits. Can you see my screen clearly, okay, Baxter?
Yes, screen looks great. If you want to put it on present, that looks beautiful.
Okay, so what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to cover, it's a lot of information, but I'm going to cover just a few topics today. I'm going to talk about what supplements are and why they're beneficial. And I'm really going to focus on a couple of vitamins. Since we left off on vitamin C last week, I'm going to focus on a couple other vitamins and then kind of get some background on that. The first thing I want you to understand, though, when it comes to supplementation, is that our cells need adequate nutrients and minerals to survive, thrive, and otherwise they sicken and die. So understanding that we do need nutrition And that's what's the point here. And supplements are nutrients that complete or enhance the diet. I guess Dr. Montgomery was referring to a minute ago. A lot of people misuse supplements because they want supplements to be their primary source of nutrients. And the word supplement means they are to supplement your diet. So number one, primarily the diet has to be the foundation of optimal health. And if you have the diet as a foundation, then those areas that are missing or lacking is where supplements come in. I'm going to cover a couple of those things. Now let's talk about what nutrients are so you understand what we are supplementing. So nutrients are classified as organic nutrients, and then you have inorganic nutrients. But most people are familiar with this because if you read any label on a food product, you'll see the amount of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, which are amino acids, and also vitamins. You'll see that as a nutrient. These are the essentials that your body needs to sustain and survive on a daily basis. And then you have the inorganic chemicals that are also nutrients, and those are dietary minerals. Those are the calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, sulfurs, the things that you need to maintain that optimal balance. Also, water is considered a nutrient as well as oxygen, because all of those components are things that take to make our bodies really function and be able to utilize the nutrients that we put into our body. I gave a talk last week, but I pulled this slide out because I just wanted to share it with the audience tonight. And it's in another presentation I did. I talked about how life depends upon plants. And people, I guess people don't really understand what that means or how our life depends upon plants. And I go back to, actually some biblical basis to get people to understand that, every nutrient, everything our body needs to survive is really on the earth or in the earth. And plants have one basic function, is to get those nutrients out of the ground, out of the soil, out of the earth, into the plants. And then we eat the plants because we're trying to get that same nutrients to sustain our body. We can't eat the rocks, we can't eat the dirt, but the plants will take the nutrients out of the soil, out of the ground, out of the atmosphere, and then we eat the plants, and that way we sustain ourselves. So when we talk about, we've had patients before I've talked to in counseling, telling them about plants, and the first thing they would say to me is, well, I don't like plants, or I don't like vegetables, or I don't eat those. And so to me, I said, if you don't like those, you really don't like living, because living is essential for our life. Everything you do is based on that. When you don't eat the plants, there'll be a problem. So what we're getting from the plants are, number one, is minerals. Minerals are the foundation of pH balance and an optimal acid-base balance in our body. The NPK, that's the nitrogen, your phosphorus, calcium, which is those three together make up a large portion of what our bodies are made of when it comes to making cells, when it comes to our systems functioning, the foundation of all enzymes and all the micronutrients that we see in our body. Then you're familiar with magnesium and calcium. They have a special benefit in our body: sulfur, iodine, and iron. These are the things that are essential, and these are just a few of them, of minerals. And those are nutrients, and we have found basically through our plant sources. Phytochemicals, the word phyto means plant, and plant chemicals. Just like we have man-made, artificial, or synthetic chemicals, we have chemicals from plants. Those are your flavonoids and your phenolic acids, your isoflavonones, curcumin, and also carotenoids. Now, all of these are the chemicals that go along with nutrients to make it all work. It's an orchestra going on here, and this is a part of the orchestra. Next, enzymes, the amylase, the lipase, and the protease. There are many more enzymes, but these three are primary. Amylase is for breaking down sugars, the lipase is for breaking down fats, and the protease is for helping break down and process proteins. And without those enzymes, there's not a lot that your body, it will be some malfunctioning going on in your body, and we'll get into that in some later talks. Antioxidants, that's your vitamins, your A, C, and E are the three primary vitamins that work as antioxidants in our body. There's also beta carotene, which is another that's converted in our body, but those are the things that and there are many, many antioxidants, but I want to use those three as an example. probiotics. Probiotics are bacteria from fermented plants. Again, we have plants here that have been fermented. That's your miso, your kimchi, kombucha, pickles, and things like sauerkraut. Those are actually fermented foods that have a significant role when it comes to optimal health of living. Amino acids are arginine, your histidine, tryptophan, lysine. These are all the foundations of making of proteins in our body, and they're absolutely essential when it comes to energy, when it comes to metabolism, when it comes to repair and of our bodies. And finally, hormones. And I use one essential here is vitamin D. We think of vitamin D as a vitamin, but modern research has shown that really vitamin D is in chemical structure and biochemical structure. It has the same structure as a hormone, and it functions in many, many ways as a hormone. And we're going to talk about that too, because vitamin D is I call it a special vitamin. It's not a vitamin. And also your phytoestrogen. These are your plant estrogens that are responsible for assisting in hormone balance in our body. These are the essentials that we need when it comes to living. Now let's talk about supplements. And most people refer to them as dietary supplements or dietary supplementation. We can call them food supplements. We can call them nutritional supplements. We call them nutraceuticals. There are a lot of different names for them, but they're basically intended to do two things. They're to complete your diet. A supplement, the definition is to complete something. So a supplement is a supplemental, or it completes your diet. So if you have absent of certain nutrients that you're not getting in your diet because of what you're eating, or you may have problems with absorption, or you have some deficiencies, that things that are just way, way low for whatever reason, that's where supplementation is very important. And then secondly, is to enhance your diet. So even though you may be eating some things, you may not have enough. That's like when we supplement things like vitamin C or vitamin E or A, it's because we don't have enough. It's not because we don't have any. So the supplements are designed for completion, to alleviate the absentees or the deficiencies, and also to enhance. That's when we have an insufficient amount of nutrient in our body. So I'm going to talk a little bit about vitamins and their benefits, but I'm using it as a backdrop to understand why this idea of supplementation is so important. And the definition of vitamins, because I want the audience to understand that, because when we talk about supplementation, we talk about vitamins, but I realize a lot of people don't understand really what vitamins really do and how they work. A vitamin is an organic compound. It's required by our body. It's required by an organism, whether it's a plant or whatever. You have plant vitamins, you have animal vitamins, but it's something that's required by your body. It's called a vitamin when it cannot be synthesized in sufficient quantities by the organism itself and must be obtained from the diet. So when you have a need of a nutrient, or that you cannot make yourself internally, and you have to get it from the dietary source, we call that a vitamin. And this example here is ascorbic acid and vitamin C. It's an essential vitamin for humans, but animals, there are a lot of animals such as dogs, they synthesize their own vitamin C. They don't need vitamin C from an external source. So we have to understand that vitamins are important because we have to get it from our dietary source. Vitamins have a diverse biochemical function. Some vitamins function as hormone, have a hormone-like function. They regulate mineral metabolism and so many other things. Some regulate cell growth and cell differentiation, determining what cells need to be replicated and reproduced, what cells need to be there for repair and for tissue growth. There are other vitamins that function as antioxidants. Antioxidants, those are to eliminate free radicals from your body. And these are the waste products of a lot of the biochemical reactions that take place in our body. Is what the antioxidant does. It takes away the free radicals. A large number of vitamins, such as your B complex vitamins, functions as a precursor to enzyme cofactors. Now, again, I want to emphasize that when we talk about vitamins, it's not a standalone supplement that we take. Nothing is standalone. Where everything works in concert. Everything works depending on other thing, like a precursor to an enzyme, the vitamin B. So if you have an enzyme, and an enzyme is a particular nutrient that's designed to speed up a reaction. It's like if you wanted to start a fire and you wanted your fire to get blazing, you pour gasoline on it. Well, enzymes would be like that gasoline. But a lot of times you would need a cofactor, a match or something to light that gasoline on fire to make it go. And sometimes B vitamin is that igniting factor or precursor to make the enzyme go to work. So you have to understand that everything is depending on each other. Now, there are two basic types of vitamins, and this is what I'm emphasizing here, what's going on in, I guess, the supplement world or the nutritional world today. Because at one time, there were no synthetic vitamins, and we depended on getting our vitamins from nature. But now, because of our processed food diet, because of the way we eat, because of stress and lifestyle, we cannot get a sufficient amount, even because of soil depletion and the lack of quality of the plants that we do eat. We don't get sufficient amount of vitamins in there. So supplementation became a thing. Now, when we say synthetic, normally personally, when I think of synthetic, I think of something I don't want to take, but synthetics were developed for a specific process. But as long as you can use certain synthetic vitamins in context with the phytochemicals, the minerals, everything else you need to make them work, they will work. The biggest problem we have with supplementation is that people will take one synthetic vitamin by itself and say, well, I don't feel anything. I took it and it didn't really make a difference. And that's mainly because it did make a difference, because if you take it alone or by itself, it can't do the job. You have a car, you need gas, and you need water, you need oil to make it run, and air. If you only put gas and no oil in the car, it's not going to run correctly. It's going to be a problem. So again, everything has to work in concert. Synthetic vitamins may be an individual chemical or a group of chemicals put together, as opposed to a natural vitamin, which consists not only of large organic nutrients that we identify, but also enzymes, coenzymes, antioxidants, trace minerals, activators, all these things that go along with a natural vitamin. That's why when you go to your store, you listen to whether it's a TV show or a talking head on the internet talking about vitamins and supplementation, the key factor you should listen for is whether they're plant-based supplements. If you're going to buy supplements, the first choice should be plant-based, because when you get that, you get vitamin D, but you get it along with all the cofactors, all the enzymes, all the other things that help that vitamin D work effectively. The same way for vitamin A, C, E, all your micronutrients and things like that.
Dr. Atkins, on those natural vitamins that you have, so when you say it comes with all those enzymes, so the molecule, is it extracted with all those enzymes intact the way it exists in nature, or are those components extracted separately and put together in the form of the vitamin?
On most plant-based supplements, when you buy them on the shelf, they are the original plant that they would come from, that have been dehydrated, have been processed to a degree to be able to put it in a capsule, but they didn't extract certain nutrients out, or they didn't titrate anything out. They left it like it was intact, like it came out of the ground. They would either dehydrate it, encapsulate it, and give it to you that way. It's usually minimally processed. So it's nothing really added to it or taken away from it.
Gotcha. So basically you get the broccoli out of the ground, freeze dry it to a powder.
Yes.
And encapsulate that.
Yeah, and so you have all of the phytochemicals that go along with the calcium and magnesium that's high in broccoli, and all of the other the enzymes that what cruciferous vegetables do when it comes to stimulating immunity. And this slide right here says natural supplements. It says natural vitamins produce a powerful nutritional reaction because of the synergy of the phytochemicals, the cofactors, the minerals, the enzymes, antioxidants. That's why natural vitamins tend to work better. They provide a nutritional balance. A lot of times, if you're taking a over-the-counter one specific isolated vitamin, you don't get a nutritional balance, because you can get an overload of one thing and not enough of something else. Number 3 says made from concentrates such as carrot powder. And this is what I guess you're referring to, Dr. Montgomery. Carrot powder, and it's just dehydrated carrots. They grind it up, they put it in and use it that way. Even sea moss, and so many people love sea moss, but sea moss is really a natural concentrate. It's a plant, a sea vegetable in its natural form, and has been basically dehydrated and put into a powder. Buckwheat itself has vitamins and minerals that come into a natural form. And their molecular and biochemical combinations have been unchanged. So I guess that answers your question there, that really is unchanged from the way it came out of the plant biochemically and molecularly.
Dr. Atkins, I have a question.
Sure.
Have studies been done about the freeze drying or, that process? Does it remove any of the nutrient value or destroy any of the enzymes? I know there's benefit, obviously, but what is the difference between doing, for example, sea moss, the actual sea moss, versus getting a pill or a powder?
As for studies, I'm not aware of studies that have been done because nobody's taking the time to put attention on the supplements in that manner. I think that's something that needs to be done. But from my personal experience and my own I guess view on biochemicals of supplements, that the natural is always going to be better, because even if it's minimally processed, there will be some changes. There will be some degradation of the supplement. It won't be the same, because even if you have sea moss and when you dehydrate it, when you take the water out, it's more than water is going to come out. You're going to lose some nutrient value somewhere along the way, because you can't separate everything unless you have a process that's going to be so expensive and no one can afford to do it. So I think you do lose something, but on a whole scale, there is so much more value in getting all of the cofactors and coenzymes and the micronutrients that go along with the active ingredient sea moss. I always, emphasize that with sea vegetables, the primary benefit of it is that it's a great iodine source for people. And so if our bodies are deficient in iodine, so it leads to thyroid hyperfunction, or if it leads to immune dysfunction when it comes to protecting breast, prostate, or uterus, by getting the iodine, you are helpful, and then you have some other benefits by having a way to activate that iodine once it gets into your body and make it accessible, make it digestible, make it able to assimilate. Now, this slide right here talks about synthetic supplements. Now, I have several slides I want to hit on that, and we can talk about it. Synthetics, they're formed in a laboratory by reconstructing a vitamin molecules chemically. So basically what that says is they take a look at chemically what the natural vitamin looks like, and they go in the laboratory and they try to make up a chemical structure the same as the original. But the problem is they tend to produce a drug-like effect, causing the body to attempt to compensate for the missing components. So say, for instance, that if you take a vitamin that's a single vitamin and you take it for a long period of time, your body is looking for all of the other entourage of supplements or elements that go along with it to make the vitamin work. So it'll start robbing other areas of the body from those supplements, or it'll try to substitute in some way, or it will cause a malfunction because you have too much of one thing and not enough of the other factors. So it's kind of how pharmaceuticals, how drug work. They're individual chemicals, and that's why they have a list of side effects. So by taking vitamins that way, you can create side effects also. Side effects because you're really creating an imbalance trying to solve a problem. And the other thing about about synthetics, sometimes they're labeled as natural, but they come from a sugar source or a coal tar source. And, with coal tar, we know is a petroleum-based product, but that's one source they get a lot of vitamins from, and people are not aware of that. We can recognize synthetic supplements because they're always less expensive, and they may be harmful to your health because of those factors alone, because they're sources that are usually not organic. They come from a artificial or synthetic chemical source.
Are they extracting the molecules from the coal tar source, or what? I mean, is it like an added ingredient?
No, they actually can extract it from the coal tar source. And this is and those are specific for B vitamins, because B vitamins, it's in nature you get more B vitamins from animal sources. But when they try to get it synthetically, this is where they get it from, the coal tar source. And I don't know the process. I may need to investigate that. But the information I have here is that the source of many synthetic B vitamins are from coal tar, and it don't work well in our body. It does look like a B vitamin. It is a B vitamin chemically, but it doesn't work the same way.
I have another quick question. So
Sure.
for vitamin D, which we explained is a hormone, where is it mostly sourced from?
Well, most of the source of vitamin D, there are several sources. They source it from uh, sheep's, we call it sheep's skin. Actually, the sheep wool, the lanolin is is one source of it. In foods, you get it out of mushrooms, you get it out of salmon is one fish source, and there are a few other plant sources. And of course, we do synthesize some through our skin, through sunshine, but those lanolin, I think, are the primary sources for the vitamin D. And that's one reason that vitamin D itself is a good nutrient. And that's what I call one of my supplements for survival, because the sources that we get it from are very difficult to get. Even when people say, "Well, I get 30 minutes of sunshine every day." Well, people don't realize that if you're not living at least below the 35th parallel, which is equivalent to living in Los Angeles, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Memphis, Tennessee, North Carolina, if you're north of that parallel in the United States, you're getting an inadequate amount of sunshine to synthesize an adequate amount of vitamin D for your life. And then people living south of that, like in Houston, Texas, or Miami, Florida, or San Diego, they get the adequate amount of direct sunlight rays, but people tend not to spend time in the sun because they worry about skin cancer, or it's so hot, they go from AC to AC, go from air conditioning to air conditioning, and they just don't spend that time out in the sun. So again, using the sun as a source of synthesizing vitamin D I don't think it's an effective way either, unless you are really in a climate that you can do that.
Okay.
Synthetic, and these are some examples of the hazards of using synthetics. Synthetic vitamin C, ascorbic acid, large doses of this have been found to cause collagen disease, kidney stones, impaired mineral metabolism. Now, I'm not trying to discourage people from doing ascorbic acid, but I want you to know you can't just take 10, 20, 30, 40 grams of ascorbic acid and not have a balanced diet, or not have the other nutrients you need to help ascorbic do what it needs to do. But just taking one thing by itself and overdose is not going to solve the problem. And then there are special needs from a clinical standpoint where you may need that, but that's something you would discuss with your healthcare professional.
Mallett has a question about lanolin you mentioned earlier. He wants to know if that's an oil.
Well, it's the oil that comes out of the skin of sheep. And they use it in cosmetics, but I don't know exactly where you could get it to use it every day from a natural source. That would be something I would have to look into. But as far as I know when I researched some of the supplement companies that have vitamin D, that's one of the primary areas they say they get their vitamin D from. The New England Journal of Medicine noted that normal doses of synthetic vitamin E and beta carotene actually have had higher incidence of lung cancer and more heart attacks, and 8% higher overall death rates in smoking in a smoking study. Now, sometimes, when I see studies like this, I understand that, if you take a synthetic by itself without the synergy that it needs, it can cause other problems. A lot of times the studies show higher incidence when you're taking synthetics, but it tells me, number one, I want to stay away from the synthetics, because if the synthetics are not compatible with my body or with life, then you will develop problems. So you want to find the natural sources first, or find a more reasonable source rather than use a synthetic. A lot of studies came out in the 80s and 90s when people tried to discredit a lot of the vitamin, mineral, and supplement industry. They did all of the research that was done on synthetics. They didn't do any research from vitamin C that came from rose hips, or came from acai, or came from a natural plant source. They didn't use vitamin E's that came from wheat germ, or came from those plant sources.
No, that's a good point you raised, because they have the same thing with vitamin C and various things. So the source of the vitamin, also the doses, the amounts that they use, all those things are variable, and oftentimes those things aren't necessarily pointed out in the headlines. The other question, the key question I have is, are there adequate supply or access? Do we have adequate access and supply of of natural vitamins such that we shouldn't ever have to use synthetic? Is there a situation where the synthetics, some people have to use synthetic? Is it such a great price differential or supply demand? Or, is there any reason to use synthetic?
I don't. The differential is the price factor. I think there are very few that you can't get. I mean, you can always find a natural form. It's just a little bit harder. What people have access to is synthetic. If you go to I don't want to call it names, but Costco, Walmart, Kmart, or if you go to any of the box chain stores, or even I call them the fast food nutrition stores like GNC. I'm not calling any names again, but if you go to those kind of places, you're going to get
rhyme with those names. Yeah, just rhyme with.
Yes. But I want people to know, you're going to get a synthetic because it's priced. Because if you go to Whole Foods and you see a vitamin E and it costs you $22 for a bottle of vitamin E, 60 capsules, and you go to GNC and you see the same 60 capsules of a bottle of vitamin E for $7, you know it's synthetic. You know that you're buying vitamin E, but you also have to know it's not going to work in your body. That you'll take the vitamin E, or you'll take the vitamin C, or you'll take a vitamin D, and you check your vitamin D levels 3 months, 6 months later, and they're the same or lower than they were before. They're not changing because it's really not performing, because either you're not absorbing it, either it doesn't have the cofactors, or either it's a synthetic. And it's more information I can tell you about synthetics. And well, here's some of it right here. Let's cover this last couple of slides here, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. Read the labels. The big question I used to get is, how do you know if it's natural or synthetic? How do you know the difference? Well, like with vitamin A here, that first one says it's natural. So vitamin A should come from plants, or come from fish oils. There are plant sources of vitamin A that you can get, and also fish oils. If you look on the label and it says vitamin E, and it says it has an acetate or palmitate on the end of the name of it, then you know that it's synthetic. And vitamin B is always a yeast or rice bran source. So it should say vitamin B1, B2 from yeast or rice bran. But if it says thiamine mononitrate or thiamine chloride, those chemical names are very familiar. That's telling you that it's synthetic. It was made in a laboratory. Vitamin B2, we call it riboflavin. And I used to think riboflavin was natural, but I realized that riboflavin is not. That's a synthetic form of vitamin B2. And if the source is not given on the label for B, especially B3, we know it's synthetic, because they're only required to, if it's natural, they will put it on there. But if they don't have it, we know it's synthetic. B6. So you see the B vitamins, a lot of it comes from yeast. They take yeast cultures, they titrate them, and get the B vitamins out of it. So that's where they come from. The cobalamins and the cyancobalamins, which are B vitamins. Now, if you do use a B12 in that form, just know that you have to have other B vitamins and the cofactors that make the B12 work. You need those also. If you got it from a yeast source, the yeast that they titrated from comes along with the crude that makes it work.
Are you a big fan of nutritional yeast?
Excuse me?
Are you a big fan of nutritional yeast?
Well, personally, I'm not, because I have yeast sensitivities, but I love the way it tastes. I think it has great benefit, but I'm yeast sensitive, so I don't do it myself.
Gotcha.
Vitamin C, so you have the natural source of citrus fruits, rose hip, acerola, wild berry, green peppers. The synthetic form is ascorbic acid. Vitamin D, which are your cod liver oils and your fish oils. I want to find more plant source or natural sources other than that, because the waters are pretty polluted right now, so you don't know what you're getting when you're getting fish oils. When they say other fish oils, a lot of times I investigated vitamin D. You'll see some people, some products that make vitamin D, it says vitamin D from fish oil. And I investigated that, and what they do is the fishermen will catch fish, and the leftover fish that they can't sell, or fish parts that they have, they mix all these fishes together, they grind them up, and they extract the vitamin D out of these oils. And then, so if you find a vitamin D oil that you want to feel more comfortable with, you should see vitamin D from salmon oil, or you should have the name of one fish rather than the name of, just say fish, because that could be 20 different fish and maybe not so healthy.
GMO has a question about lanolin again. I guess you wonder why they use lanolin when mushrooms are the highest higher vitamin D than lanolin. I'm not sure if that. I mean, it's a vitamin D related question. I mean, mushrooms are. I mean, I think you can get. I'm blanking on the mushroom. All of them have vitamin D. There's one.
Yeah. The reishi, shiitake, maitake, those are the highest ones, and then you have the cordyceps mushroom is high in vitamin D. It's again, that goes back to price. I mean,
lanolin is cheaper.
Lanolin is cheaper. They shearing sheep, making wool jackets and wool coats and stuff all the time. We got plenty of sheep to shear, and when they shear the sheep, the undercoating where the lanolin is where they get that. So you got a excess pool of vitamin D there. But yeah, to get it from mushrooms, you'd have to grow a lot of mushrooms and a much difficult process to get it that way. So what I do is eat the mushrooms, and I just try to mushrooms is like a main course. It's not a condiment or a complement to a dish. Mushrooms can have a great benefit. And then vitamin E. One thing about vitamin E, you see on the label when you look at a bottle, it's a D-alpha tocopherol. D-alpha is a nomenclature to let you know that it's a natural. It comes from a vegetable source, wheat germ. It's a mixed tocopherols. That means they have D-alpha, beta, and gamma. There are many different tocopherols, but alpha, beta, gamma are the ones that when we say mixed tocopherols. The synthetic will always say DL. Alpha. DL means D is L stands for levo, and that lets you know that it's a mirror image of what vitamin E looks like. So it's a mirror. It's like D is the mirror. I mean, it's your actual thing, and the DL is a mirror image. So if you look at it that way, you realize that if you had a vitamin and it worked a certain way, well, if you pick the mirror image of it, the same enzymes that worked on the original one won't work on the mirror image because everything will be backwards. Everything will connect just the opposite of the way it would connect if it was the original one. So the same cofactors and enzyme and same cofactors and activators and enzymes that make the E work in this form will not work on the DL on the other form on the mirror image. And so that's one reason that vitamin E is notorious for not working in the body because what they created in the lab was a mirror image of the original one. It looks like it, but it's a mirror image. But I don't know how they could call it a twin if it's a reverse twin. So
a reflection of the real thing.
And the last one is vitamin K with alfalfa. And alfalfa is a great source. Alfalfa is loaded with minerals and vitamins, but it's a great source of vitamin K. And the metadienine is the synthetic form of it. I want to stop right here, Dr. Montgomery, because this presentation goes into breakdown of the vitamins A and I think I did the fast soluble vitamins here, but we want to talk about it in the future because we did talk about vitamin C, but we could take some questions or.
Okay, why don't we do a quick station break? We're probably at the midway point, so what we'll do is come in and we'll kind of open up the floor for questions, and certainly I've got a number of questions to kind of lead off. So as we come out of the station break, you on the chat line, get your questions ready. We will get into that and we'll have a little discussion and also kind of touch base on how these things interact and what have you. So just stay tuned.
That was a previous one.
Okay, we're back, and so now we're going to get into a little bit of Q&A, and of course, if you want to throw some slides up to answer any questions, you can. So what I like to do, and we're going to go into talks that get into how we manage patients and what have you. But what I like to do, Dr. Atkins, is get your take on someone who comes in. So, and I'll give a few scenarios. So we got a young, healthy person who comes in, and let's say they don't have any health issues or whatever the case is, and and let's say it's a she, and she, jogs and whatnot, and so she wants a wellness evaluation, and so she's got an over-the-counter multivitamin, and so that scenario multivitamin, and I'll also put slash behind that prenatal vitamin. So you can kind of get the one who's not necessarily beyond childbearing age, but then the one who's childbearing age, maybe just had a baby or pregnant with a prenatal vitamin. So I don't want to lump them in the same class, but there's a lot of symmetry there. So 2 young women, childbearing age, plus or minus, multivitamin, prenatal vitamin. What say you? Now, we don't have any issues that we're addressing or targeting, but they walk in your office, want a wellness assessment, and they're taking these vitamins. What do we start there in terms of the advice?
And that's Dr. Pamela Atkins, right?
Yeah, that's right. I left that intentionally up in the air. So either way, Dr. Ford Atkins, Dr. Pamela Atkins.
Well, I definitely need to evaluate. A lot of people are healthy or say I'm on a healthy diet, but when you investigate what's healthy to them is relative, and what's a healthy diet is relative. And so when you start dissecting the diet and things, to see. But of course, many of us that eat, many people that are not eating red meat or a lot of meat or plant-based, many times I see B12 borderline low or low. And so I usually like B12 I like to test it, and I like to see B12, 600 to above, going to 1200 or so. Some people will have, B12 2000 or so, maybe because they're getting a little excessive amount, but it's water soluble, so it's not dangerous. So, things like that, you want to look at that healthy, B12. Even people that eat fish and chicken, many times their B12 may be borderline or low. So that's really important. And, and you have to really consider, pushing antioxidants when they make choices with what they eat, or if they want to supplement, because many people are lacking antioxidants and colorful fruits and vegetables, that are powerful antioxidants. So, so those are things to consider in a healthy person, and even someone that is maybe even interested in getting pregnant in the future,
So basically, you start off an evaluation. You look at B12, you look at D, and what do we do with the vitamins they're taking? I guess you evaluate them. Maybe they get it from one of these over the counter. Let's say generic store generic store X over the counter.
Yeah.
So what do we do with what they're already taking?
Yes, I do look at them. It takes time, but try to look at some of the ingredients, to make people aware. But a lot of the grocery store or drugstore vitamins that they're taking, when you look at the inactive ingredients, there's things like artificial coloring, red dye number 40, yellow dye, etc. And, many of these are not even allowed in some Scandinavian countries, some European countries, but we don't think they're healthy. And so we're trying to eliminate those. So look at those inactive ingredients. Sodium benzoate, many times a preservative, but we feel that many times holistic practitioners are concerned that benzoate may be a cancer-causing component, so look at that. And, a lot of people love gummies and things like that. They may have natural colors or artificial colors, but they have a lot of sugars to them to make them palatable, and so we want to look at that, and watch things like corn. Many people are sensitive to corn. Most corn is genetically modified in the United States, unless it says on the label non-GMO. So we want to look at those ingredients, the inactive and as well as the active ingredients, and and just to know how much just to ask them about the processed food they eat, because a lot of people think whole wheat bread is not processed. But, if a bread or food is fortified, you're getting those synthetic chemicals, or, milk or whatever is fortified, most of those chemicals are synthetic, as Dr. Floyd said. So,
So that's a good point. And the thing is that what they're already eating typically, so maybe the first step, certainly what I do is, as you implied, look at what they're taking, look at the vitamins, have them bring it in. Frequently, I'm stopping whatever they're taking. I mean, sometimes to take no vitamins, better to take some of the stuff to take it over the counter, unless you do the micronutrient testing, check for B12 and D and the like. And so, we've got our, I guess we take one controversial question per show.
Only one,
which is here. She wants to know about vitamin COVID. You guys don't have to mention. I'll be bold and answer for myself. I have not gotten the COVID vaccine, so I'll answer Jackie Leftwich, and I think you guys have heard me talk about it enough. But it does raise a topic related to vitamins and micronutrients, because we are in a pandemic, and people are concerned about coronavirus. But we don't have to be in a coronavirus pandemic. This is still part of the flu season, I guess, the tail end of it. I don't keep up with these flu seasons, but so viral infections around the wintertime is a problem. So whether it's coronavirus or any other virus, are there things we can do with vitamin supplements to sort of help out in protecting ourselves there?
Well, for sure. What I try to impress upon people is that, viruses themselves are not a big problem, because our immune system was designed to handle that. Like we can produce a natural immunity against certain viruses. We may need help in some circumstances, but the problem goes back to immunity. If you have a significant or adequate immune system, you can create an antibody to a great number of these viruses, especially these flu strands we come in contact with. And I think the reason we're having a problem now is because of the processed diet, of where we live, our lifestyle, diet, rest, and things like that our immunity cannot sustain. Even with the vaccine, I want to emphasize that vaccines are dependent on a healthy immune system to work properly. To get a good antibody response, you have to have a good immune system. So if your immune system is weak and you take a vaccine, well, then you'll get a weak immune response. Now, I'm saying this it's the same way as the industry stands right now. They have no foundation for it. I have no foundation other than I know the biochemistry of how viruses work. But now we're going to find out what kind of vaccine response we get from people taking it for the next 6 months, 12 months. Are they going to be immune in the next flu season? Are they going to be immune if this same strain come around again? Is it going to protect them this time? People are taking the vaccines, and now people are traveling, so I can go everywhere, because they just are operating by faith that I hope it works, because the studies are not, well, the studies are taking place right now. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to come out and say, I think we have to, those of us in this area, and it's not a controversial statement. Number one, the facts are in the published data that the vaccine did not show survival benefit. That's not me saying something. That's what Pfizer said. That's what Moderna said. That's what they published in the New England Journal. There was no survival benefit with the vaccine, and also, which is important, and it's not a negative thing on the vaccine. It's a positive thing on the immune system, because you had two groups of people. One group did not get anything. The other group got the vaccine. And the people who relied on their immune system had the same survival rate that the people who got the vaccine. That's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing against the vaccine. So it says that the immune system works. It does its job. And so, I think that's the takeaway message there. And to do things to enhance the immune system, like vitamin D, I need to pull that article, but there was some data that came out that showed that at least in a number of hospitals, the people that died from coronavirus, they all had a vitamin D level less than 30. Are you familiar? Do you have a copy of that? I need to go and search that article, but I don't know if y'all have that.
I have a copy of it.
Okay? Can you share that with me? And probably on the next show, we'll probably we're going to put the link to that article on, because it's an important thing, because it goes to the core of what we're talking about. It speaks to a micronutrient deficiency that's associated with survival benefit in a pandemic. And these are the types of things we need to, grab a hold of and understand. And we're not saying these things to be controversial, I'm not anti anybody. I love everybody. My religion doesn't love everybody. I love, vaxxers and anti-vaxxers and pro-vaxxers, and I love everybody. But the point is that the purpose here is just to convey information so that we can inform people to empower themselves. So if we know that people with a vitamin D level below something are at highest risk, then keep your vitamin D level up. It's not a crime to say that. Maybe more data needs to come out, but do these things. That's an important factor. Any other comments on that? We can.
Also is that's vaccine or no vaccine. That what we're saying about vitamins is whether you decide to vaccinate or not, because ultimately we're talking about overall health, sustaining our overall health for a lifetime, and not just about COVID.
That's right. That's a very important point. And then, so that's we may get other comments on that. But Devin wants to. You have another comment for it?
You see my screen share real quick?
Absolutely. Let me bring it up. Okay.
This is just one point when I was talking about vitamin A. I never got to the slide, but what the second point is vitamin A was found particularly helpful when it came to diseases caused by viruses like measles, respiratory viruses, HIV. They would treat in the presence of vitamin A. So if we are sufficiently taking what we need, the vitamins, these nutrients would do the job. And the last one says vitamin A blood levels were often low in people who had viral illnesses. So again, these are things we don't normally check in traditional medicine, but this is things we need to know, because if you handle the underlying cause of problems, you'll avoid these things. Just want to share that. Wonderful.
Thanks. Yep. Great point. So again, your micronutrients and phytonutrients and all of those things play an important role in your health overall. And deficiencies are associated with problems. How can you increase iron levels naturally on a plant-based diet? Do blood thinners affect iron? Anybody want to take that on?
Yeah, I see that from time to time, people that are anemic or need their iron to be increased. And one good way to do it or to possibly try is liquid chlorophyll, because chlorophyll is so similar to the hemoglobin. And so chlorophyll can help build up the iron level. So there are sources of liquid chlorophyll at the health food stores. They're in different concentrations. I don't have a particular brand, but when I look at a hemoglobin, depending on the hemoglobin, I recommend how many times the regular dose they should take. Usually it may say a teaspoon or so many drops in a glass of water. And your tongue may turn green and your bowels may be green, but it can help build up your blood count. So that's a source. For people that are don't mind an animal source, there is energizing iron made from animal beef source that's grown in Argentina without pesticides and without hormones, but they're in a capsule form. But that's another source. But you really have to work with your doctor to look at your blood count, because and you want to to address what the source. Why are we anemic? Because usually there's a source of losing blood. Is it a woman that's having heavy cycle, or is it a possibility you have gastritis or ulcer or a polyp that is losing microscopically that, you're not aware over time. So, and making sure there's no history of any sickle cell or thalassemia trait, that you're always, your blood count's always a little lower. Sometimes people are giving iron when they really don't always need it. So, but the liquid chlorophyll is a natural way, and that energizing iron is a way, but you can't iron overload. Some people have sensitivity to iron, and many people are chronically constipated, and iron is constipating, just makes it worse, or they may have a reaction, a GI reaction to the iron and not tolerate it. So those are some options that I use in my practice.
Great. Somebody mentioned, I wasn't aware of this, but Jackie Leftwood says she's allergic to armithyric contain polyethylene glycol and polysorbate 80. Any comments on that? I didn't know it had polyethylene glycol, armithyroid.
Well, I mean, when you say you're allergic to armithyroid, I mean, there's different components to the armithyroids. It's the USP porcine thyroid, but also there's other active ingredients and inactive ingredients and some coating for the tablet, etc. So it could be any of those other products that you could be reactive to. But if there is, there's other sources, there's compounding sources where you don't have to put it in a tablet. You could put it in a capsule, and there's no artificial colors or fillers or coatings and things like that. So, but you have to find out what you're reacting to, but for that reason, I don't usually like to prescribe armithyroid because of the additives.
Gotcha. What are good sources of vitamin A? Jackie McCray wants to know.
Well, always your fresh fruits and vegetables. Beta carotene is the easiest way to convert vitamin A in your body. So if you're doing oranges, orange bell peppers, orange fruits, yellow fruits, squash, red fruits, all of those things are excellent sources. Carrots, your sweet potato. I have a whole list of those things. But yes, just you can Google that. Just food sources for vitamin A. There's so many. Peppers.
Now, fact or fiction, sea moss, does it has all the minerals and things that has 92 of the minerals we need? Fact or fiction?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Sea moss has at least 72, because in most in seawater you have 72. Some people use the word 84. 92 is a new one. I've heard 104 too, but I always go with 72 because that's the least amount, and that's what you need. And everything you may not need in there, but your sea moss has those things available. The thing about using products like sea moss or seaweeds is that it depends on where it was grown, where it was harvested, where the batch came from. You get a variation in the amount of iodine or the amount of nutrients that's in it. So it's hard to know exactly what you're getting. So,
because we know sea moss because it's popular now, but it's not the only item that has a lot of minerals. There are sea salts that have the same amount. I've heard 102 minerals for certain types of sea salts, but it has to do with the source of where the sea salt is actually coming from. So it's always going to be a source question.
That's a great point. I'm sorry, go ahead, Pam.
Oh, no, I was saying, usually sea vegetables, I'm thinking I believe they're more concentrated in minerals and like iodine than the sea salt. So you're getting better source, and you definitely don't want the bleached sea salt, the white, as opposed to the pink Himalayan or the Celtic or Celtic salt. I also did want to address. I saw the question, a person that said that they went on a plant-based diet and their HDL level went down some points. I think from 58 to 45. Do we have time for that one?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to say I just want to say, when you embark upon a healthy diet, plant-based diet is great, but you got to put in the good oils and the omega-3s, and you have to really actively put those in. So it's not just going on plants, but you get the good oil. So usually I really emphasize with my patients, not just seeds and nuts if they're allowed to eat that, but things like omega-3s, hemp seed, chia seed, flax seed, as much as 2 to 8 tablespoons per day, and it will go up. But a lot of times when people go on a healthy diet, they forget the healthy oils, and then the good oil or the HDL, high density lipoprotein, goes down, and we want that to go up.
Yeah. Also, with the HDL in our data, we've seen when the HDL goes down, the ratio doesn't go up. So the ratio of good to bad doesn't go up. That's number one. Number two, all the data that we've looked at in terms of the lipid components is really low. I mean, it's high LDL. What we know about high HDL, in fact, pharmaceutical companies try to make drugs to increase HDL, and actually it kill people. And the data on increasing HDL is very spotty. What they're starting to look at is HDL molecules size. So HDL size is one of the things they're looking at. But the data on HDL is questionable, and all the data we've seen, we always see the HDL go down on the plant-based diet. And I think there are different explanations. One, I mentioned the ratio of good to bad doesn't change. That's one. Two, what we also probably are dealing with is that if you have a lower HDL, it's probably because you need less HDL. If you have a neighborhood with a lot of criminals and you get all the criminals go away, then you need fewer police. So say, okay, we used to have 1,000 police in this, now we have 500 because there are fewer criminals. And so I think I never worry about the HDL going down. I see it go down all the time, and I say, okay, wow. So that's
I actually have been to a lecture series where they talk specifically about that. And it's still early in studying, but they're saying it's supposed to go down. When everything else goes down, it's supposed to go down. So that's a good thing, because like you said, you don't need as much of the HDL now that all your other numbers have decreased. But, I think the public feels like it should continue to increase, because everybody thinks of good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. And so they feel like that good should continue to go up. But these studies that they were talking about at this conference I attended said that's not going to happen.
We see ours go down. DNR's goes down. Essel's, everybody sees it go down, and that's associated with positive events. And so they have a lower HDL, lower events, lower chest pain, lower heart attack, and that's what we see too. So I think it's just part of the natural course of getting better, needing lower HDL corresponding to needing less HDL. So I wouldn't worry. And she come back and says, yes, my LDL is great. Now you tell us. You get us all this whole discussion. Now, here's says chlorella and or spirulina a good source of omega-3. Anybody want to take that?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I agree. And then here's a question. Let's see here. Oh, wait, not that one. What supplement brand do you recommend?
Well, if you're going to buy over the counter and you're not haven't done a lot of research, I would go with the Garden of Life brand. They have a plant-based supplements. Most of them are plant-based. So if I was going to get just the basics like a multivitamin, multimineral, or your vitamin D or E or something like that, I would go with the Garden of Life. They have a good reputation. There are others out there, but you shouldn't, going on the internet trying to buy multivitamins is like really a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get if you don't know the companies and know the brands.
Yeah, it's a racket.
Yes,
many rackets out there. Well, anyway, so this is great. So this is very helpful. Thanks, Dr. Atkins, for a very insightful talk. And again, this pushes the envelope down the road. Although we got into a little bit of that with one hypothetical, as we move forward and talk about vitamins, we're going to try to hone in on certain health conditions, because people have different health conditions that they're focused on. So what I'd like to do is put it in context. So as we go down in the next coming talks, I'll be posting some of these topics. We'll deal health condition by health condition, and we'll each share our different philosophies in terms of what we do, and hopefully that'll be helpful to everybody. So I'll see you guys backstage while I close out. And as always, again, another great show, and I learned a lot in terms of understanding what the vitamins are, what they're made of, what the sources are. And, we're putting things in our mouths, and we just do this routinely. We want to make sure that, one, you're spending money on it. Even if you spend $2 on a bottle, if one is doing no good, that's a wasted $2. So you might get the cheap vitamins or cheap minerals, and it's on sale, and you're getting a great deal. But it's not a great deal if you spend $2 for nothing. Or even worse, you may be spending $2 and it may be causing some harm. And these things cause harm because your liver, remember, the liver has to process these additives, as Dr. Atkins pointed out. There are a lot of chemicals. Dr. Pam Atkins pointed out the red dyes and the yellow dyes. All these things have to be processed by the liver. And we're seeing an increased amount of people coming in with a non-alcoholic fatty livers. And so, they're consuming a lot of processed foods and chemical preservatives and the like. And many of these people are taking a lot of vitamins and supplements over the counter. So these cheap vitamins are not very cheap. They're very costly. They're costing you your health. They're costing your liver. They may be costing your kidney. So I want you to be very mindful. It seems to be a very benign thing to be taking a vitamin, but it's not benign at all. So again, take heed. If you didn't see all of this, please go back and look at the recording. Get your pen and pencil out. There's a lot of great information. And of course, if you got something out of this, share it with a friend. If you haven't already, subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up like button, because that helps us out with the algorithm. And share it with a friend. And so until next time, keep it fresh, natural, and live.